Here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm inviting you to join us on Wednesday, January 7th, as we broadcast live from Perry's Joint on the 1-year anniversary of this horrific and devastating fire. We're remembering those we lost, celebrating the heroes and sheroes who answered the call, and honoring the resilience of neighbors who are determined to rebuild together.
I've been a strong Black woman a long time, and I can't just break down now.
Hear the stories of survival, the voices of recovery, the spirit of community that the fire couldn't destroy, and yes, the angst of those who still do not know where they go from here.
Yeah, where am I gonna go?
At KBLA Talk 1580, we don't just cover the story, we're part of this community, and we've done our level best to hold those responsible for this fire accountable. And 1 year later, we're still standing together.
It is my hopes that Black people will rebuild those homes.
So join us live at Perry's Joint, 2051 Lincoln Avenue in Pasadena, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Wednesday, January 7th, as we commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the Altadena Eaton Canyon fire. Because some stories demand to be remembered.
This too shall pass.
This KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall is sponsored by LA Fire Justice.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk.
1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It is January 5th, 2026. We are just 5 days into the new year, and the world is upside down. Movie Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the J Lunch Club. We are here, and we're going to be talking about all things Maduro, Venezuela, South America, the Voting Rights Act, the consequences for the elections in the midterms of 2026, the amazing silence of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, who at this hour find themselves in the exact same position that African Americans, more than 62 of them elected to the Congress of the United States and presently serving, all of whom are running for re-election in the midterms, along with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Let's not forget that. But the silence from the unprecedented threats and the action taken in Venezuela, including the arrest of their president, President Nicolas Maduro, threats against Mexico, promising the people of Colombia that the Colombians are up next. Just keep talking, just keep making fun of Donald Trump and Marco Rubio with even more bravado. FAFO. That's what he said. And presently he's trying to avoid being called the viceroy of Venezuela. I wonder sometimes, given his South American heritage, what must really be going on in his mind to know that he's bombing countries that are so central to his native heritage. Yes, even threats against Cuba. We cannot separate what's going on in South America from the president renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. We are looking at an unprecedented expansionist vision of U.S. imperialism in South America, not to exclude the possibility of an expansion in Greenland. And you thought your vote did not matter. You thought it did not count. I was looking at some numbers over the weekend where some suggest that African American men voted for Donald Trump 17%. Overwhelmingly for Kamala Harris, 83%, but that 17% has now shrunk over the last 9 months, 10 months, 11 months to 6%. African American men are feeling and bearing the brunt of a major mistake that 17% of them made when they did not see Kamala Harris. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Mr. Krim's Classroom. Mr. Ernest Krim is a contributor on multiple platforms. He has more than 4 million followers. He teaches or has taught high school education. He continues a public ministry of educating the nation on Black history with more than 4 million followers as of 2024. Ernest, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hey, what's up, brother? Happy New Year to you.
Man, I'm doing all right now. How you doing in the new year?
Oh, man, I'm doing okay. Again, I always have to say with the caveat of considering the state of the world, I'm doing great. I'm trying to keep myself plugged in, but still away from the constant news cycle so that I just have enough to chime in without going crazy.
Ernest, what is your take on the unprecedented actions by the president of the United States in Venezuela and the subsequent threats that he has been making to most South American countries?
Yeah, my first thought was I still can't believe this guy is our president. If I'm being honest, that's the first initial thought I had. Although it's been almost a year, it still seems very unbelievable that we are in the midst of this and we're just starting very soon year 2 of this charade. To me, it harkens back to many periods of times I have taught about while in the classroom. When I think about Manifest Destiny, when I think about the Louisiana Purchase, and when I think about the Mexican-American War, and how America, this country, when I say America, I want to be very clear when we talk about this. We're not talking about this ideal of something that's beyond us. We're talking about people who have come together to institute and enforce a government with this white supremacist imperialist mindset. These are people converging together to make this choice since 1776 and beyond. I think about this appetite for more that has never been quenched, that is never been full. This avariciousness, this greed to say that we're going to take indigenous land time and time again. And when we get to the end of that coast, I always will tell my students that when we got to the end, we started island hopping and we never stopped. And we have never been satisfied with that. And I feel like Trump is proud to be in that same lineage and heritage, unfortunately.
I am Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're talking about world events today. We're talking about the way in which also the Voting Rights Act and whether or not our representatives are going to speak up against what we all witnessed, the unprecedented occupation of the country of Venezuela by the President of the United States in the name of the American people. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward right here on KBLA.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the beat. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Moving Mountain Mondays, and more specifically, we are in the classroom with Mr. Ernest Krim, our regular Monday afternoon contributor. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, what's up, brothers? Good to be back with you.
Brother, let me just share with you and get your insights on the extraordinary damage that Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, and the minions around the court of the imperial presidency of Donald Trump have done to the credibility of the United States and the international community. And how many decades, if ever, it will take to regain the trust of our neighbors, our allies in Europe, to the idea that America stands for freedom, for justice, and that we are not an imperial power that is only looking for critical minerals, resources, and opportunities to use the United States military to loot the deindustrialized, underindustrialized, and the poor throughout the world. It's just impossible not to see it. We spent trillions of dollars from the Cold War to the present, stockpiling so much ammunition we couldn't use it in 100 years. That's how much ammunition we have to justify the size of our military budget. And then we find these little skiffs off of Somalia to shoot with our military, the most sophisticated weapons known to mankind. We find these little drug boats, if that's what they are. The Venezuelans, the Colombians, they say they're fishermen. Now, those fishermen, by the way, Colombians and Venezuelan, are traveling pretty fast. I ain't never seen nobody fishing that fast. So doesn't look like fishing to me. But certainly it's a matter for the Coast Guard, not a matter for the USS Gerald Ford and the carrier strike groups that are positioned in the South American coast and literally occupying and terrorizing the people of Colombia, the people of Venezuela, the threats to the people of Mexico, and even threatening the regime in Cuba. Mr. Krim, can you share some thoughts on the long-term implications of American credibility and how quickly Donald Trump is spending the nation's goodwill?
If you just think in the historical context of where we were roughly 10 years ago or 15 years ago, the last few months or the last year of Obama's presidency, and you think about just even what that meant symbolically to the world, it appeared as if America, for the first time throughout our history, which has often been rife with contradictions glaringly across the world for everybody to see, from the civil rights movement before that and beyond, it seemed like we were headed in the right direction. And again, you have to think about this from the perspective of people who have never been here, and they can only be taught about what the American empire or the American dream is based on news headlines, the entertainment industry, and so on and so forth. To steer in to take such a 180-degree turn is unfortunate, and it's scary to me, honestly, man, because when I think about what this means for not just how we're viewed, but what this means for our relations moving forward. And it's almost just like you said, it can take you years upon years to build an edifice, a skyscraper, a brilliant structure. It only takes a second to tear it down. When this time period is gone, how much longer will it take for us to regain that reputation? And it's not just people in South America. It's not just folks in Europe or even Africa. There are folks right next to us. We're closing in. We're being submerged. We're isolating ourselves. The way we're talking about Mexico, the way we're talking about Canada, the way we're talking about Greenland. This guy approaches everything as if it's a video game, as if it's Monopoly in real life. Venezuelans already had there was already a negative connotation associated with our brothers and sisters who were coming here for Venezuela. Now, based on this, what damage does this even do to how Latinos are viewed in this country? When we think about that in comparison to how Muslims were treated after 9/11, and when we think about that in comparison to how Asians were treated during the pandemic, this is going to have consequences that we have not actually started to grapple with yet.
You know, I think that I think that might be the reason for the silence of the Hispanic caucus. They don't know what they're looking at, particularly those conservative Latinos who voted for Donald Trump, who some have argued came to the United States specifically to assimilate into their perceptions of what Western culture and what white means in the world, only to find out that here in the United States, they're just as black as us. What happened to Nicolas Maduro and his wife is the same thing they did to those Venezuelans on 75th and South Shore Drive. They didn't care that he was in Venezuela. They broke into his house. They broke into 75th and South Shore Drive here in the city of Chicago. It's frustrating. Gina, go ahead and play that clip.
In the Venezuelan capital, few are venturing out. Streets remained largely empty, save for lineups seen at the grocery stores that remained open and modest waits at some gas stations, as a sense of unease settles in. I tried to stay calm because I have small children, she says, but she admits the uncertainty makes her anxious. In the hours after the U.S. military's explosive operation to capture Nicolas Maduro and bring him to a New York City court on narco-terrorism and conspiracy charges, the deposed leader projected defiance.
Good night. Happy New Year.
Saying Happy New Year in front of the U.S. government social media teams capturing his every step. Defiance shared by his remaining supporters back home. In a televised address, the defense minister accused the U.S. of violating and breaching Venezuela's sovereignty, announcing Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's vice president, is now in charge. He also rejected Donald Trump's assertion the U.S. is taking control.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition.
Trump is ratcheting up the pressure, directly threatening Venezuela's new leader, telling the news outlet The Atlantic, if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro.
And so we expect to see more compliance and cooperation than we were previously receiving.
In a series of interviews, the U.S. Secretary of State suggested the Trump administration won't directly lead Venezuela. Instead, he says the U.S. will use its resources to try to pressure Venezuela into adopting policy changes, including stopping the flow of illegal drugs, pushing American adversaries out of the country, and allowing U.S. companies into Venezuela's oil industry.
And the goal of the policy is to see changes in Venezuela that are beneficial to the United States, first and foremost, because that's who we work for, but also, we believe, beneficial for the people of Venezuela.
The mission and its aftermath dividing U.S. lawmakers. Some accuse Trump of waging an illegal operation.
Maduro's a horrible, horrible person, but you don't treat lawlessness with other lawlessness, and that's what's happened here. When America tries to do regime change and nation building in this way, the American people pay the price in both blood and in dollars.
Trump is broadly dismissing all criticism, saying this is different than American interventions in the past because he says Venezuela is like a neighbor. He is demanding full access to everything in the country, telling reporters on board Air Force One that the U.S. is in charge, which contradicts what his Secretary of State suggested hours earlier.
And Katie, Trump is making it clear tonight his ambitions go beyond Venezuela.
Yeah, Ian, Trump made remarkable comments again, insisting the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons and that Denmark isn't able to protect the territory. And he said an operation in Colombia sounds like a good idea to him.
Colombia.
And my brother Jesse is muted, so I'll start until he unmutes himself.
Thank you very much. You know, I was in a barbershop the other day and I was listening to a conversation. I apologize. I had my head down just nodding it from this scene that we just saw, this clip. And the conversation ended up that Black and brown people around the world, they need the bomb. They need the bomb. That the only way to stop the cyclical CIA covert activity that takes place in their countries to loot them of their natural resources is that we now have to acquire the bomb. Now, that wasn't my idea. That's the conversation that was taking place in a barbershop. And I'm thinking in this moment that when the Afrikaners were in charge of South Africa, they had the bomb. But they had a bomb that they were prepared to use on the African majority to significantly reduce their population in their own country. They were prepared to use the bomb locally. And they dismantled the bomb when the apartheid regime failed. And I believe the United States even helped them dismantle the bomb. Now, with 300 billion gallons of oil, the Venezuelan people, the Nigerians, and other countries around the world to keep the United States from threatening them need the bomb. That was the argument that was being made in a barbershop. Your thoughts, Ernest?
You know, we are creating an unprecedented level of fear. When you think about, I'm glad you mentioned that, because right after Christmas, right, this country bombed Nigeria. Even domestically, we're talking about child care services being cut because of a hoax of a video about Somali Americans, right? We're dealing with so many issues, and it really pains me to constantly be on the landmass that was created by the bully that this nation is. Because like you said, when you create an unprecedented level of fear, then some people will cower, of course. Some people will capitulate and give, and others will respond emotionally out of a fear of survival, right? And we have to always be cognizant of what this might look like in terms of blowback with anybody. Because like I was saying previously, he already created a climate of anti-Latino sentiment when he began to run on the campaign trail in 2015. And he keeps putting out this paranoia, drug dealers, they're this, they're that. And then he goes in there, right, and kidnaps this guy to arrest him. There were already people from Venezuela fleeing that regime to come here. But now what is going to be put in folks' mind, whether they be from Venezuela, whether they be from Nigeria, whether they be from Haiti, right, Cuba, maybe even Denmark and some of the white nations, the paranoia would be that they are coming here to cause us harm, when we know that folks are coming here for a better life. And but even with that said, the reality is we do have to also be aware that some folks will be angry. And why wouldn't they be? You could correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the stories I've seen have said casualties were at least 40, right? So in order for them to arrest Maduro, 40 civilians at least killed, people minding their business, right? And we're not saying that this guy was running a country perfectly, but we understand that there are laws in place to make sure that things can be done in a more efficient manner. I don't think there's anybody in this country, you know, and I can't say anybody, but those of us listening to this, right? I don't think any of us would agree with the fact that if somebody wanted to capture Trump, that it would be okay to kill 40 of us. That's where we are.
I find that fascinating because we've said that the election to elect President Maduro was not handled properly. And Maduro says that he was duly elected by the people, even though international advisors suggested that the election had serious complications. We have the President of the United States calling the Secretary of State of a state, looking for 1,200 new votes. We have an Attorney General in the United States who for 2 years did not prosecute the offenses that Jack Smith is bringing before the Congress and sharing the details of the criminal indictment against Donald Trump that he was pursuing. I see so many parallels and corollaries between Donald Trump and Nicolas Maduro that I almost can't see straight. Donald Trump talking about the idea of a third term, which is unconstitutional. Nicolas Maduro holding on to power in his own country, unconstitutional. I mean, the authoritarian imperialistic playbook is so filled with hypocrisy and problems that there is no true arbiter of what constitutes justice, fairness, the rule of law, international law, and democracy. I'm deeply troubled by what's taking place in Venezuela. I had no idea that it would be right here on 75th and South Shore Drive here in the city of Chicago, just 3 blocks from my home. But it is the exact same story. Netanyahu's not being arrested. We spent trillions of dollars to fight the Soviet Union and to fight the Russians. We are not using our weapons to fight them. We're fighting the poorest people in the world with the most sophisticated weapons known to mankind. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show in Ernest Krim's classroom. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says it's unclear whether President Trump can successfully run Venezuela, arguing Trump has not improved conditions here at home.
it remains to be seen whether the people of Venezuela are going to be better off.
Speaking on Meet the Press, Jeffries pointed to rising costs and what he called a Republican healthcare crisis. Trump has said the U.S. will oversee Venezuela until a transitional government is in place. President Trump is claiming there have been no homicides in Washington, D.C. since last summer, a statement he made during a Saturday news conference. However, city crime data contradicts that claim, showing 5 homicides last month and nearly 60 killings reported in the past 6 months. And Columbia County, New York is marking a historic moment with the swearing in of a new sheriff. Jackie Salvatore took the oath of office on Friday, becoming the first Black woman to serve as sheriff anywhere in New York State. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36. LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in Mr. Krim's classroom on the J Lunch Club. Mr. Krim, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Hey, Ernest, let me ask you another question. I want to comment. I want to comment on the paralysis in national leadership, particularly the Black Caucus and the Hispanic Caucus, in this hour, because I think we do need national voices. But as you know, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is being greatly challenged in the courts as we speak. Within the next week or so, maybe the next 2 weeks, a decision could likely come down on the Robinson versus Clay decision. And I suspect that the paralysis includes that half of the Black Caucus may not be there in the next session of Congress. We go from 62 to 30 members. The Congressional Hispanic Caucus will most certainly be divided in half. And they're probably all saying to themselves, Venezuela is not my problem. But Venezuela is our problem, because Nigeria's up next. Greenland's up next. Cuba's up next. Increases in military spending means less money for healthcare, housing, education, for domestic programs, for the needs that we need in our own country, supplemental nutrition and assistance program, monies that we need to provide tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. It is our problem. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. Never sin for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Professor Krim?
You know what I think as an educator, I often reflect on what I would say if I was in the classroom today to young children who are trying to decide what career they should go into with this ever-evolving marketplace, right? The AI boom, and there's just so much that is changing even within the past year or so, right? And I think about the local economy. Of course, you know, I'm in the Chicago area, southwest suburb now, and I look at some parts of the town where there used to be businesses where there are now just military recruitment stations. And I think about that in comparison to this. And I think about that in comparison to how much you can make if you join ICE, regardless of your ethnic background, to terrorize a community that could look like yours. We are at a place now, especially for Black folks, lower class folks economically. The unfortunate reality is this is creating a precedent where the most lucrative thing for our children to do with their time is to continue to perpetuate this imperialist state. Now, that's not what we want them to do, but how can I stand in front of a group of kids, and I still do this though, and tell them that you should become a teacher and come out, maybe you make 40,000, maybe 50,000, get your master's, maybe you make a few thousand more, versus I don't even know if you need a degree to join ICE. And what are you making, 150,000? You're making as much as a principal, a superintendent, you get a $50,000 signing bonus. My barber, one of my barbers, is a gentleman who joined the military in the 80s because he didn't feel like he had any options. And he was in Panama. And I can't wait to sit down and talk to him because about what happened over the weekend with Venezuela, because the previous conversation we have always had talked about how he felt like as a young Black man who was able to graduate without being able to barely read, that was the place that he was most welcome because he was about to flunk out of college. And we would often always talk too about, although he was able to get some things financially to start businesses and things like that, that he still deals with a lot of PTSD, that he has to deal with a lot of issues at the VA.
Let me tell you about my PTSD. I mean, I'm not a millennial, but I remember Oliver North. I remember the Reagan administration. The millennials weren't even born yet. A lot of them are running for Congress right now.
Yeah.
But I remember when the United States allowed the Contras to sell dope in the United States to make a profit. They took the money back to South America to buy arms from Ronald Reagan with Colonel Oliver North. The United States has been destabilizing governments in South America, allowing dope in the United States for decades. Congressional hearings, senatorial hearings, 60 Minutes, when we did have a national press, exposed all of this. And now, with whatever deals the Biden administration worked out and the administration before that administration worked out with South American leadership to help curtail the flow of drugs into the United States, all of our involvement in all of that. Here comes Trump rewriting the entire script, which isn't just about drug reduction, but he put it firmly on the table. They're sitting on 300 billion barrels of oil, and it belongs to us. And U.S. oil companies are welcome in Venezuela. I'm wondering, with the capture of your president, Venezuela, why has no one declared war on the United States? If someone came here and captured the president, the king on our chessboard, the president of the United States, the sun would not set before the American people would move in the direction of war or capture Marco Rubio.
Right.
Some federal official who's engaged in this charade. Why is no one declaring war on the United States? Now, I'm not advocating for that. Obviously, I'm not advocating for that. But I'm wondering what the arrangement is. That when your government is destabilized, you just kind of sit there and accept the occupation. And from my perspective, that's just unacceptable. I mean,
yeah. Well, we're the big bad bully on the block, you know, and unfortunately, because of how much we've invested in our military over the years, as you said, in place of investing in communities, in place of making sure everyone is fed and has a flourishing economy, we have invested in this very thing for centuries, and he has taken it and catapulted it to another level when we're at a point with the awareness that we have, the access to information, with the struggles that people have had globally and domestically, where we are ready, we are begging for something different. And we're seeing this in so many local elections across the country. And to your point too, with the approval rate that Donald Trump has in our community as well, how that has, of course, dissipated, unsurprisingly.
You know, I'm thinking about the movie Clear and Present Danger, where the United States, for decades, through the intelligence communities, has negotiated with these countries, with the cartels, to reduce the supply of drugs flowing into the United States. That's just a fact. That's not just made for movie stuff. That's a fact. But at the end of the day, we didn't go to their countries and claim their natural resources or their critical mineral resources as our own. That's some doctrine of discovery kind of stuff. That's exactly what happened to the Native Americans. And the American people are going to have to rise up with their votes in the midterms to reject this kind of authoritarianism. Our children who are studying abroad are less safe today. Our diplomats are less safe today. American citizens traveling around the world are less safe today. American diplomats are in a bargaining position for peace, for hostages and others around the world, that the bargaining position itself has fundamentally changed as a result of what took place just a few short days ago. America has lost moral authority. It is just purely gunboat, big stick, bully politics that has no place for free-thinking people.
Let's not forget that nobody's talking about the Epstein files anymore. Let's not forget that this guy shouldn't even technically be president, should not have been allowed to run for president. And I think it's important to understand that with a person like him, and I think about, 20 years ago when I was, more than 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, during George W.'s first term, I think about how oftentimes a president would love to incite conflict or incite a war because it can be used as a rallying cry for unity. I don't know if we're even there in this country. I don't know if we're at that place right now with the way that we view him as people, but also too, I love the point you made about how everybody who's abroad is at risk at this point. He is creating an environment where we have to, in many ways, rely on the very thing that is tearing us apart.
You know, my mother once told me, and I'm prepared as we get ready to go to our break. I told my mother that I want to study abroad or even live abroad many years ago. She said, "No, you don't." She said, "You don't want to be anywhere near the receiving end of what America can do to another country. You want to be right here where America cannot drop a bomb on you." And I don't believe that's true anymore either. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're with Mr. Krim in his classroom. More when we come forward on KBLA.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was the house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of the utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-237-8585. That's 800-237-8585. 800-237-8585. Again, that's 800-237-8585.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me.
Jackson Jr., welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's the J Lunch Club. So grateful that Ernest is joining us in this hour, our first show that's live of the new year. I'm so grateful, Mr. Krim, that you are here.
Hey, thanks again for having me, brother. It's good to be back with you.
You know, brother, I'm not going to call this brother's name because today he is an author, a community mentor, an entrepreneur. He has redeemed his life. But even in Los Angeles in the 80s, centered around an activity that was taking place between the Contras, the Iranians, the Reagan administration, the George Bush administration. And by the way, President George W. Bush was the director of the Central Intelligence Agency for a number of years before he became vice president of the United States, and was a very well-respected member of the intelligence community as vice president and president of the United States. He was actually an unusual president in that he was part of the intelligence community who emerged as president of the United States. And so the details of operations, George W. Bush was well aware of our relationship with all kinds of entities all over the world and all kinds of activity that takes place in South America. The United States, I read as early as today, has been responsible for supporting a number of regimes in South America, maybe as many as 24, that have undermined popular sovereignty and popular democratic movements in order to take advantage of the interests that the United States finds on the ground in that country, the most blatant version of which is taking place and playing out with a president that doesn't even know how to hide behind the intelligence community. He's just going to put it all out there. This is what I'm going to do. But we've been doing it all the while down there. We've been doing it in Cuba. We've been doing it in Venezuela. We've been doing it in South America for decades. Remember the Bay of Pigs. We've been doing it. And so I'm sitting here saying to myself, now that it's all in the open, it's becoming increasingly clear to me that one Latin American country at a time cannot challenge the United States in this hemisphere. You almost need a United States of South America. One government, every local little country being its own governor of your little province, your culture, and whatever form of your culture that should be and must be preserved. But it is impossible in a global economy for little old countries in Africa to negotiate against the United States by themselves. I mean, just one country at a time, because the United States, you can't pick Georgia off from the United States. You can't pick Alabama off. You may not like what the governor says, but you can't pick them off. We are the United States. And the absence of a confederation within these countries is a factor in whether or not they are able to compete in the global economy and even be respected in the global marketplace. So whether it's Gaddafi in Libya, or whether it's Toure, the brother in Burkina Faso, everyone arguing for one currency in Africa, because our little currencies with all of these little presidents with their little faces on their little worthless dollars, running around in their little country with their pride with their on money that don't spend nowhere else but locally, is a problem if we are not united around how these poor countries, Brother Krim, relate to the global economy and to the rest of the world.
Well, you preaching internationally with the message for us domestically too, because like you said previously, this does matter to us in terms of how the money is being spent and then how people of color are viewed, right? We don't have any leverage domestically unless we are unified to some degree with people amongst various classes in our immediate community across different state lines. This is why there was such a call for, I would say, even with Malcolm X, reaching out to the international community. We must unite here. We must unite abroad, because what we are dealing with here is the same thing that other folks are dealing with. The issues that we see here happening with Venezuela, 40 people at least being killed with this bomb before Maduro was arrested, is, again, 41 years ago, the police dropped the bomb on the Black community, the MOVE community in Philly, right? Like, these are some of the same issues that we see as above, so below. And to that point, brother, like, for me, if I'm a Latin American leader of a country, you have to be, in a sense, trembling, because there's never too much. You can never give this man enough. He's going to continue as a leech to want more and demand more. Eventually, somebody has to put their foot down and stand up. And if there is no united front, then what we will begin to see is that entire region will topple. Like, this is, to me, this book I read years ago called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is metaphorically America continuing to expand the Walmarts across the country, the McDonald's, the Walgreens on every corner. That's what that is, y'all, metaphorically. And this does not end well for anyone involved, especially for us who are the most vulnerable. We ain't talking about the billionaires and the eventual trillionaires. This is something that will impact us all on the ground, because also, to the point you made before, we have to be very curious and to wonder if they flooded our streets with drugs in the 80s, after they essentially took away our economic base with the manufacturing jobs and things like that. We have to ponder, 40 years later, we're still recovering from that. We're still recovering from Reaganomics. What might they be doing right now that will come out 10, 20, 30 years later? We have to be aware, because, again, the jobs are leaving, the economy is shifting. And they want to add AI data centers to every community where you live without employing the people. Our minimum wage in this country hasn't gone up in almost 20 years. There is no desire to employ you or compensate you well unless you are on the side of the empire. Otherwise, for our middle class folks, they're ready to push you in that funnel, that school to prison pipeline, that school to prison nexus. They want you to go right down the street to 26 in California, Statesville, wherever other prison in California and beyond.
You know, we need middle-class jobs in America. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. Middle-class jobs. Middle-class jobs. Not AI jobs. Robot jobs. Not just minimum wage jobs, although there ought to be a minimum floor beneath which no American falls, with health care, with benefits, with the ability to live, to have a mortgage, to provide for your families, to send them to school, to college. But middle-class jobs are disappearing in the AI economy. Middle-class jobs. And therefore what? We end up having to rent for our families. People who own their homes and sell them, but ultimately, when they can't sell them, we end up renting from someone who owns multiple homes because they can't stay in all of the homes at the same time. Middle-class jobs are disappearing. And they're disappearing as a result of automation, and in some cases, just absolute lack of planning. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We've enjoyed you, Mr. Krim. Look forward to seeing you again next Monday.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 and the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hord Owens on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says it's unclear whether President Trump can successfully run Venezuela, arguing Trump has not improved conditions here at home.
It remains to be seen whether the people of Venezuela are going to be better off.
Speaking on Meet the Press, Jeffries pointed to rising costs and what he called a Republican healthcare crisis. Trump has said the U.S. will oversee Venezuela until a transitional government is in place. President Trump is claiming there have been no homicides in Washington, D.C. since last summer, a statement he made during a Saturday news conference. However, city crime data contradicts that claim, showing 5 homicides last month and nearly 60 killings reported in the past 6 months. And Columbia County, New York is marking a historic moment with the swearing in of a new sheriff. Jackie Salvatore took the oath of office on Friday, becoming the first Black woman to serve as sheriff anywhere in New York State. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36. LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on the Faith Not to Fall. It is Moving Mountain Mondays with none other than the President and General Minister of the Disciples of Christ Church, both in the United States and Canada. And if Donald John Trump has his way, the president of this church will not be as international as she thinks she is, because Canada and Greenland will become part of the United States. She'll be a domestic denomination host. I refuse to accept that, and I refuse to believe it. Reverend Terry Hordowens, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Good to be with you, and Happy New Year.
Madam President, it's always a pleasure. What is the faith community's response to what we witnessed over the last week?
I would sum it up in just a word, at least my colleagues, just outrage, and a reminder to all of us that, as somebody said, it doesn't matter who the president is in the White House, God is still on the throne. That being said, I think people are beginning to mobilize and talk about ways in which they can begin to rally people, to make voices and presence known in DC and other parts of the country. But this is simply an outrage for anybody who understands anything about how the Constitution is laid out, both the balance of powers, the role of Congress in these actions. And outrage is probably the best word. I'm still on sabbatical until February 1, and I'm trying to keep my peace. And Trump is really making it hard for me to break away in these moments and act like I'm not connected to anything, because of course we all are.
Madam President, I mean, on a deep level, world events and holidays carry profound spiritual implications by providing structure for communal reflection. It is very, very difficult to wrap one's mind around communal reflection with the world we thought we were trying to build. And into the new year, we find an even greater fracture than there was from the previous year.
It's almost hard to believe that things can continue really to get worse, but you're right. We're coming out of a season, be it Hanukkah, earlier in the year, Muslim Friends celebrated Eid, Hindu people celebrate, and Indian people celebrating Diwali. lots of meaning around what light means, what new beginnings mean. The winter solstice in December, shortest day of the year, and now each day as we're moving towards spring, we get a little more light each day. Those are all profound meanings as people, wrap up a year, regardless of their religious tradition, and try to believe, as was preached in many Christian churches yesterday, that believing that God is doing a new thing. It's difficult as a human person to hold on to even the deepest of our spiritual commitments when the environment around us is threatening not only peace in our own neighborhoods and our own streets, as people in Chicago and LA and Portland and other cities in the United States have experienced, or whether it is new calls in to take over Greenland. Trump is now saying, well, in about 20 days, you'll hear more about what we're planning to do about Greenland. And these are the moments in which you talk about the faith not to fall, in which your true belief in not only the power of the divine to address matters, but the power of divine won't mean a whole lot unless we participate with the divine in changing these circumstances, be it protest, be it advocacy, be it just the people on the streets of Chicago who literally interrupted, right? They interrupted the work of ICE on the streets. I think we have to come to some kind of agreement on how we're going to interrupt this process. And that, I believe, is also the work of the divine. But we as human beings must participate with whatever we believe is holy, whatever we believe is right. We can't simply espouse these beliefs without taking action to help build that world that Christians believe is possible because of the coming of the Messiah. And, we talked about Howard Thurman before Christmas. As I was, he's been my thought companion during my sabbatical, and in particular his book, The Mood of Christmas, and that poem, The Work of Christmas. After the angels have stopped singing, after everything is done, now we are in that period when the work must not only begin but continue. So I'm hoping that we'll be committed to some form of interruption, to equip and educate ourselves and mobilize and work together. No one person could do this alone. We don't need fractions. We don't need messianic leaders who think they are the only answer. We need to work together in order to create the most impactful disruption.
Madam President, let me put my William Barber hat on for a moment. It seems to me that, I think I'll put on my Fannie Lou Hamer hat. We can pray till we faint. But if we don't do something, ain't nothing gonna change. Now,
absolutely.
That tells me that in this pivotal new year, that the faith community, which has essentially the same 501c3 status as most voter registration organizations, and a recent ruling by the Internal Revenue Service that preachers can be engaged from their pulpits in political activity, it seems to me that the thrust, Madam President, ought be churches engaging in massive voter registration and voter education for the primaries and general election that's coming up in 2026 on a scale that we've never seen before. My sense is, Madam President, that activity has not crossed the threshold into action. It's still praying, and it's praying in some cases until we faint, until we start speaking tongues and all of that right there. But at what point in time are we going to start registering to vote? The Democratic Party obviously isn't doing that any longer.
There is a powerful movement which has operated, and I've been a part of in every election, midterm, and every primary election, every federal election since I took office in 2017. It's called Faith United to Save Democracy. They have a voter registration toolkit that has been shared across many churches, and they began actually ramping up for 26 right after the 2024 election. And you can Google that. Faith, it's a plural, Faith, Faiths, Faith United to Save Democracy. You may know Barbara Williams Skinner, who is the head of the Skinner Leadership Institute and really was the first executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. But many of us are partnering as sponsor organizations with that effort, trying to get not only folks registered, but also getting clergy and lawyers to act as judges at polling places to fight the voter suppression that happens.
I am Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is The Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Teresa Hord Owens, our very special contributor on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More when we come forward on Moving Mountain Mondays.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to partner with the Empowerment Congress once again for their 34th annual summit. The summit's theme is From Vision to Action, a forum to unlock participatory democracy, and will feature a nonpartisan gubernatorial candidate forum focused on issues of importance to the African American community. The summit is the signature public policy-oriented observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy during the national 3-day holiday weekend that celebrates his life. This year's summit will be held on Saturday, January 17th, 2026 at the California Science Center in Exposition Park from 9 to 11 a.m. Admission is free, but registration is required at KBLA1580.com. All major announced candidates for California governor for the Democratic and Republican Party nominations have been invited to participate in the candidate forum, which will be moderated by Tavis Smiley. An all-star panel of journalists will pose questions to the candidates, and the forum will be broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580. This is going to be a big year for local, state, and national politics. The political pulse of 2026 beats on KBLA Talk 1580.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Moving Mountain Mondays and the Faith Not to Fall. Reverend Terry Hord Owens, President and General Minister of the Disciples of Christ Church. Madam President, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Oh, good to be with you, my brother. Always good.
Madam President, I do have a question, and then I think we're going to return to a quick clip. In the last show, you were listening very carefully to the comments about that I heard raised in a barbershop about how people of color are constantly in every generation, particularly small African, sub-Saharan African, and South American nations, fending off the activity of American intelligence communities for whatever their vital interests are at any given hour. Not their human rights, but the right to dig beneath their soil and take something from them that does not belong to them. And the question in the barbershop centered around, why don't Black people have the bomb? And I want to ask you that question. We've been part of the disarmament movement my entire life. But when you see this kind of naked aggression by the United States of America, I don't have the answer for why we don't have the bomb, because clearly it's a deterrent for Europe. It's a deterrent for messing with Russia. It's a deterrent for messing with Israel. It's certainly a deterrent for messing with the United States and China, and the rest of us without the bomb are uncovered.
Right.
That was the conversation that took place in the barbershop.
Yeah, and believe it or not, the beauty shop that I go to get my hair done, one of the reasons I love my stylist is because she has some political perspective, and we're always talking about these things. We didn't talk about the bomb, but in our community, these conversations are happening. People think they're not happening, but they are happening. The Eurocentric powers that be, particularly post World War II, did not want African nations in particular, or Caribbean nations, or any nations that weren't Eurocentric to have the bomb, and really were designed to establish the United States as sort of a protector of the peace and a singular world power who could be trusted, right? As part of NATO, United Nations, and other alliances. Only a few nations they thought could be trusted to do that work. Bill Clinton, I heard an interview over the weekend. He is verbally saying, "I am so sorry." Those were his words. "I am so sorry that I helped to negotiate the disarmament of Ukraine when it became independent from Russia. If they had continued to have nuclear arms, they would not have been a victim of Russian aggression. It would have been a deterrent to Russia." And so in this kind of world where we see the U.S. betraying the trust that the world has put into it in terms of protecting peace and justice, we see ourselves going across national borders and kidnapping and executing our own justice. There's no American official that would allow people who have been charged with crimes to come into the United States. It would have to be the United States' choice to relinquish that person for justice in the country where the offense is created. But United States is now betraying its trust, and Ukraine is just a really good example. I heard your comment about South Africa, right? South Africa keeping their nuclear arms in order to keep its Black majority, right, under control. It's just crazy.
I'm thinking in this moment that that a conversation is going to begin at some point in time. You've never seen our massive military force and power used against Europe since World War II. Right. In fact, we defend Europe with that massive military presence. Everything that we've invested for the last 5, 6, maybe 7 decades has been geared towards staving off Russian and, if you will, Soviet and then Russian influence in the world. That's what our weaponry and our fear-mongering that was sold to the American people when we supported annually budgets that spiraled in the hundreds of billions of dollars, and now for the first time under Donald Trump, part 2, it is now topped over $1 trillion annually. And now this very powerful force with satellites from here to the moon, circumnavigating the world with drones, is looking for little poor brown and Black people who can't get enough to eat, right, who are in a hustle that is an illegal hustle that does kill Americans and kills people all over the world. But we're using this massive military machine to hunt down the most vulnerable people on earth, and we would never use these kinds of weapons against Europeans, against Russians.
Absolutely.
I mean, the moral irony and the hypocrisy of it all is it's just unfathomable.
You know, Marco Rubio press conference earlier was actually saying, we are doing this in Venezuela because first and foremost, our concern is for the American people.
That's exactly what he said.
Secondly, right, the welfare of the people in Venezuela. If you believe that the only valid faith in the United States is Christianity, that we are a nation for God, those very values violate the honor and love for neighbor. They violate the love and honor for humanity that people of all faiths claim. I went to Venezuela as part of a delegation from the Disciples of Christ and United Church of Christ back in September 2019. And we were escorted the entire time by representatives from the Venezuelan government. And part of what we saw was, number one, we heard the critique of the United States embargo on Venezuela trying to control the oil trade. It meant that things like mechanical parts for their public transit system, they sort of have a sky car transit system that gets people around, even the city of Caracas, over the mountain gullies and valleys that are there. And their infrastructure was basically wearing out because they weren't able to get basic parts. People were starving. The oil revenues for the country were depriving even what you might call a communist or dictator government to provide what little social services they were able to provide. African Venezuelans isolated, even in these South African countries, there's still colorism, there's still racism, but the politics were being felt very ripely by Venezuelan people. And we met with Christian leaders who were both for the regime and against the regime. In the midst of it all, the people were suffering. Huge moral failure when you're more concerned about political power than you are about the impact of what you're doing on people who must live and eat in your countries.
I'm wondering, Madam President, because Dr. Osram was on our program on the PL De Silva show, and she was talking about how U.S. aid over time has really enfranchised an elite within many of these countries. And while they may, provide USAID resources to provide what the faith community does amongst the world's poorest and the poorest of the poor within these countries, that there is an undemocratic elite in these countries, that the politics itself do not germinate, if you will, from the ground up. They really are top-down politics. Hence, leaving a serious gulf between the people who need the 30 million Venezuelans and the 1% that operate in the country itself. That this is true all over Africa. This is true. The arguments she made are all over South America as well.
I think that's true. That's what I witnessed, and we were, in fact, ushered, right? And you saw the lieutenants and those that had power that came from the top down and were part of our escort. And you also saw some Christian organizations that had more favor than others, some religious organizations that had more favor than others, and groups like the Afro-Venezuelan radio station that was targeted and arson attacked in the mountains. Black folks and other indigenous people in Venezuela forced to leave commercial centers and forced to live on the outskirts, not just geographically, but on the outskirts of the city. But when you have only people on the top benefiting from all of those oil profits, housing degenerating in front of your eyes, it was difficult to see the way in which people were living in Venezuela. And of course, the perspective they wanted us to have, one of the guards who kept talking to me because I was Black, he had nothing good to say about Barack Obama's work when he had been in office. And this was after Obama's term. This was 2019. So Barack was already out of office at that point. But they wanted to give us as Americans a negative narrative of not it wasn't really the United States so much as they were singling out Barack Obama as this black man who had done all of this evil to their country. I've never heard them speak in that way about another U.S. president. And now, of course, they have both aligned with Trump and now they're speaking against Trump. But there definitely is an elite power. They took us to this wonderful musical program to show us how they were providing musical instrument instruction to these children. Beautiful string and brass instruments. These kids are playing beautifully. They kept showing us these little things. It was almost like, here are literally the crumbs that we are giving the people, even as they are dying and being discriminated against in other places. We were there because we support some of the Christian ministries that operated, but even those ministries have to walk on eggshells in order not to offend or create problems with governmental authorities who are always watching them. We had somebody with us the entire time.
I want to go to a clip right now.
And here at home, protests today in response to the U.S. military action in Venezuela.
CBS LA's Lauren Posen is live in downtown LA with the message from those protesters. Lauren.
Lorraine, it didn't stop demonstrators who say they feel this move by the U.S. government is more of a way to control oil than promote democracy. What's happening thousands of miles away in Venezuela brought dozens of people together in Pershing Square.
I'm here because I'm protesting the U.S. military intervention in Venezuela.
Protesters are calling for an end to U.S. involvement in Venezuela following Saturday's large-scale strike by the United States that resulted in the capture of the country's president and his wife.
Venezuela is a sovereign nation, and it's just not in our jurisdiction. And no one else has the right to overthrow their government and say who should be leading them or not.
Activists say today's lightning raid against the U.S. military action on the country is unconstitutional.
I think that the labor movement in particular needs to take a stand. We're not just fighting for bread and butter contract issues, but for political issues, because the workers and working class of Venezuela are aligned with us and not with the Trump administration.
President Trump says the U.S. will run the country until what he calls a judicious transition can take place, and that the U.S. would take control of Venezuela's massive oil reserves. Activists here say that's the heart of the conflict.
One of the most common signs we see here is no blood for oil. That's an important message, and it comes from the endless war on the Middle East that I grew up during. And we are saying no more blood for oil because that is what this war is about.
Activists say they'll continue to hold demonstrations until they feel their voices are heard. Reporting live in downtown Los Angeles, Lauren Posen.
Of Secretary Marco Rubio says it's about us, that their oil is about us. Oh, and then we're thinking about the people of Venezuela and them actually taking advantage of their own oil beneath their feet. And this is as outrageous, as arrogant, as undemocratic, as illegal and immoral as it gets. Madam President?
Absolutely. I mean, I was literally stopped in my tracks when I heard that. I said, oh, you said that thing like out loud, right? You said the unspoken thing out loud and documented for all to see. It's immoral. It's a moral failure. It's even un-American in the ways that we've all been brought up to think of America's desire to do good in the world.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580 with Reverend Terry Hord Owens, The Faith Not to Fall. More on Moving Mountain Mondays when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
On
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Today marks Marjorie Taylor Greene's final day in Congress. The Georgia Republican announced her resignation in November after a public break with President Trump, criticizing him on issues including health care subsidies and the Epstein files.
And I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for.
Greene, first elected in 2020, also recently spoke out against U.S. actions in Venezuela. Sharon Owens is outlining her vision as Syracuse, New York's new mayor. In her inaugural address, Owens pledged to focus on opportunity, equity, and long-term growth. Owens is the city's first African-American mayor and the second woman to lead Syracuse. And rapper Megan Thee Stallion is celebrating a new business milestone as an official Popeyes franchise owner. The Houston rapper recently opened her first location in Miami and shared the moment on social media. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Rams and Chargers will have to make a cross-country trip for their first-round game in the NFL playoffs. The Rams locked up the number 5 seed in the NFC and will play at Carolina on Saturday, 1:30 p.m. kickoff on Fox. The Chargers are the number 7 seed in the AFC. Their first-round matchup is at New England, the number 2 seed in the AFC. That game is scheduled for Sunday at 4:30 p.m. on NBC. Raheem Morris, one of 5 African-American head coaches in the NFL this season, was the first head coach to be fired. The Atlanta Falcons fired Morris Sunday evening, despite the Falcons winning their last 4 games. Atlanta finished 8-9. LeBron and Luka Doncic combined for 62 points Sunday night to lead the Lakers to a 120-114 win over Memphis. Doncic had 36. LeBron dropped 26 and 10 assists. The Lakers are 22-11, third best in the Western Conference. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. For 40 years, I have had the privilege, and I don't use that word lightly, the privilege of sitting down with presidents, world leaders, authors, artists, activists, the folk who shape our world. Thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of questions. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the art of conversation is dying. So here's what I'm going to do about it. I am now going to teach what these almost 40 years have taught me, how to have conversations that matter. 6 courses, from the anatomy of a great conversation to generous listening as a superpower to handling difficult exchanges without losing your dignity or your mind. Go to TavisTalks.com right now. That's TavisTalks.com. Download the free guide, see what's coming, sign up to be the first to know when we launch the series. Conversation is a skill, and like any skill, it can be taught. I'll see you in class.
Hey, good morning. You're heading to the airport, right?
Yep, thanks for checking. I like the car. How long have you been a rideshare driver?
About 3 years now. I really enjoy it.
Isn't it hard to make money these days with the price of gas being so high?
Not for me. I use Upside, the free app that gives you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get real money back when you get gas with the Upside app?
Yep, I get real cash back every time I get gas.
Does that actually add up to anything?
I'll make around $200 to $300.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime, right to your bank account, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code STATE to get up to a $5 per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code STATE.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, the J Lunch Club, the Faith Not to Fall, Moving Mountain Mondays with Reverend Dr. Terry Hord Owens, the President and General Minister of the Disciples of Christ Church. Madam President, welcome forward to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's always a pleasure. Madam President, let me go right to a clip.
We certainly saw some large crowds pack Federal Plaza here tonight, continuing to push back against the Trump administration and these attacks on Venezuela. They say that this is another unnecessary act of war while demanding an end to the use of taxpayer dollars for international affairs. A fiery crowd tonight in downtown Chicago, speaking out against the U.S. attacks on Venezuela as President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were taken into custody by U.S. forces. Anti-war activists say the U.S. has been down this road before.
Whether it's Saddam Hussein's Iraq or the Taliban in Afghanistan, Panama, Libya, you name it. Whenever the United States attacks another country like this, it's the peoples of those countries who suffer the most.
While many Venezuelan nationals are happy to see the regime removed, there are growing concerns locally over how all of this was carried out, as Congress was not notified of the operation.
In open violation of international law and U.S. law, invading a sovereign country, kidnap their president, kidnap their first lady, and call this just.
Protesters continue to demand the Trump administration to focus on issues here in the U.S.
The people of Chicago oppose this because, our public infrastructure is underfunded, it's failing, we don't have social programs, people are facing homelessness, lack of jobs, lack of adequate education, and meanwhile our tax dollars are going to bomb people in Venezuela.
President Trump said today that a team of U.S. officials will help run Venezuela during this transition. A history professor from DePaul is.
Madam President, I do have a question regarding the Democratic contenders for President of the United States. We've witnessed Donald Trump bomb 8 countries in less than 1 year. He's got 3 more years to go. Possibly setting a record, launching a bomb on every continent on Earth as President of the United States before the end of his term. But the absence of Democratic presidential contenders and their voices and their outrage, and whether or not, if they are elected President of the United States, that day one of their administration means the withdrawal of American forces from the Caribbean and that part of the world, and the restoration of the rights of sovereignty and international law and respect, more specifically for the sovereignty of these nations, if that is a new policy going forward, or will Democrats just kind of slow walk it like Merrick Garland and just, we'll get around to it eventually. Some parts are working, but some parts aren't. Come on, I'm getting tired of it, Madam President. Have you given any thought to the silence of the Democratic nominees or potential nominees?
I mean, it's frustrating, largely, and perhaps most importantly, because the people are being so clear about what it is they want. And in order to, I think, rally that base that has traditionally been the Democratic base, you'll have to pay attention to what these people in the streets are saying, not only in the United States, but around the world. We have to participate in this disruption, and we need leaders who understand that the disruption is not disrespect, but it's actually full respect for the rule of law in this country. It's full respect for the humanity of all those who live in the United States, and full humanity for those who live in countries around the world. Our respect for sovereignty, our respect for perhaps multilateral discernment and action, as opposed to this unitary executive and this unilateral action that the United States is taking. But when we become more concerned about where we step politically and try to be devoid of all critique, then we miss what the people are saying. I'd rather stand with the people who are making their voices heard. And certainly there is savvy and there is strategy to be employed in any political campaign. But I've been to DC many times just in the last year since Trump has been back in office, and people are listening. But beyond what they can or cannot do in Congress, we need Democratic leaders to be standing with people in the streets. We need people to be hearing and affirming the anger and the frustration. We need people, and it's not really reaching across the aisle to reach out to people who voted for Trump. You're reaching out to humanity, to people who are poor and not doing well economically, the people whom these policies, that FAFO message that people are saying, you thought you were getting this and you're actually getting this. We've got to meet people where they are in terms of what's happening in their homes and on the streets. The people are speaking, and we need to pay attention, and we need to see direct alignment with the people.
I'm wondering if in this moment, if the Democrats themselves are uncertain as what the position is that they should take. Yeah. And I was more than willing to help Gavin Newsom or J.B. Pritzker write the appropriate press release that the people can hear, because what has happened is so outrageous and such a violation of international rights and international law, and the absence of the Congress's participation is it's so embarrassing, so humiliating, so devastating to the future of the country. Yeah. Now is a real profile and courage leadership moment, Madam President.
It is, and this is really about the welfare of humanity more than anything. And we're allowing the placement of our concern about that Venezuelan oil. Let's be clear, it's about the oil. Stocks for American oil companies went way up today. That's just another indication of why this is being done. And for people of faith, no matter what faith tradition you practice, your priority must be the welfare of humanity. And within that, just basic respect for the sovereignty of nations, on which our international communities are built to respect the sovereignty and to respect what people are doing to ensure that humans are fed. So if we don't like what's happening in Venezuela, there are other levers that we can be pulling to ensure that world opinion and multilateral action against nations that are violating human rights like this can be attacked. But we have to not only speak out. I mean, Gavin Newsom will put out a cartoon about Trump. Let's see some bold action about what Trump is doing, and not just the buffoonery that we see, but hear the people and let the people know that you hear them. And not only that you're willing to stand with them. People of faith are often reluctant to make comments on these matters because they say, oh, it's the church being political. No. This is not partisan politics. This is not being political, in my mind, is from a church perspective, is endorsing one candidate over another. We don't do that. But we certainly have to stand for the moral structure in this country. We have to be the moral conscience of the nation, and we have to be vocal and visible and active about those things that our faith calls us to, which is, again, the dignity of all humankind. As Martin Luther King said, I have the audacity to believe that people should have 3 meals a day, that they should live in peace, that they should be able to have health care, all of these things. That's my continuing mantra, to have the audacity to believe that the world can be this way. And people of faith are called to do it. It's not a violation of your faith. It's the very foundation of your faith to engage in these activities.
The American oil companies are stealing the oil of the Venezuelans.
Yep.
And I'd like to see some really angry pastors come out and organize themselves in a way, and civil rights organizations. Let's pick a couple of these oil company targets, and let's not buy gas at their stations any longer.
Yep.
It's time to ramp up exactly what they're stealing, these people's natural resources.
Yes. And we saw that, right? During the anti-apartheid movement. I was in college. That was the issue. People didn't buy gas from Shell because Shell had huge holdings in South Africa. We can do that again. It's that kind of large collective and collaborative boycotting that really helped to pull down apartheid in South Africa. But we've got to pull down the injustice of this executive, and we've got to work together to ensure that what he thinks he's doing is not helpful.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest is none other than Reverend Teresa Terry Hord Owens, the President and General Minister of the United Disciples of Christ Church. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take DayQuil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the DayQuil.
Undo your flu symptoms with DayQuil Intense Flu. DayQuil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
DayQuil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu, medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. So let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the Faith Not to Fall with Reverend Terry Hort Owens on Moving Mountain Mondays. Madam President, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Oh, thank you, Jesse, and Happy New Year again.
It's always a happy new year with you and a happy day. Madam President, I want to, just before I do, I want to say that tomorrow our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show will be the distinguished gentleman, the Honorable Congressman of the 1st Congressional District of Illinois, the Honorable Jonathan Jackson, my brother, who is a member of the Foreign Operations Committee in the Congress of the United States. I really want to hear his take on these world events. He's been to South America, to every continent on Earth, and I'm sure that he has a perspective about the unraveling of America's standing in the world as a result of the precipitous actions of the President of the United States, Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, and the cabal that is occupying the White House. Madam President, I do need to ask you, however, about the church and our faith. Can denominations actually come together under the banner of non-interventionism, under the banner that, these are, Donald Trump, American Christians taking advantage of Venezuelan Christians? Now, these are white Texas Christians coming to Venezuela, a nation of Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean, serious religious people who take Christianity very seriously. And I might add, I think Catholicism is a major religion in Venezuela and in South America. And I'm wondering about the amazing silence of the Pope right through here. Maybe I'm missing something, but I've been looking for something from the Catholic Church. Madam President, can the denominations come together to deal with exactly what's happening? This is white Christian capitalist nationalism invading a Christian country. In the meantime, he's lobbing bombs at Muslims in Nigeria, arguing that the Christians in Nigeria are not being treated fairly within Nigeria. How do you reconcile, Madam President?
Not only can denominations come together, they really must. I'm a little surprised that we haven't heard anything from Pope Leo as well, although I trust that we will. We work in joint global ministry, the Disciples of Christ with the United Church of Christ, and that statement was issued on our behalf. I gave the producer the link to that statement, and it does reference the action that happened against Nigerian Christians. We have this thing, as you know, called Christian nationalism, which infects Christianity with a sort of a malignant form of nationalism that distorts everything, turning it toward that focus. As Marco Rubio said, everything is about us first. And when we say us, Rubio is sort of identifying with the oppressor, because in a real definition, it's only because Rubio has aligned himself with the power structure that he's even included in the us, because his people are not really included in the us. If he were outside that power structure and had not surrendered all of his moral crucible to serve in that administration, he himself would not be included. We have a real, and I find it frustrating. I do a lot of work, as you know, with Dr. William Barber. I'm involved with Sojourners, with the Faith United to Save Democracy, and even across some of these movements, you'll see some denominations participating with everybody, but you'll see some people who will say, well, I'll do my work, and I'll do my work over here. If Christians across the United States, and this has been a dream that I've had, to get clergy across the United States to all show up, multi-faith, multi-generational. If just the clergy would make a visible presence at some place in the United States, or even doing it to mobilize in cities, the way that the clergy, the Christian clergy, did in South Africa. I think I've shared that story before, that Desmond Tutu says that someone in the South African parliament, when they saw this huge display of clergy in their vestments showing up to protest to parliament the work that was going on under that regime and to protest the injustice of apartheid, one of the members of parliament said, apartheid is done because these people see it as holy work and they will not be turned back. We've really got, and our leaders have to do it. We've got to quit being afraid. I'm elected to my position. I've been elected to my second term. You'd have to almost, I guess, impeach me. And sadly, I've never been really afraid about how people might respond. I believe I'm speaking God's truth. And if you disagree with me, that's great. But I'm not going to be silent because someone says, oh, the denomination should not be engaged in this political conversation. The denomination must be engaged in the work of justice. And every Christian denomination, every faith organization must be engaged in the work of justice, or we need to lay that faith mantle down because we're not doing the work of Jesus. Jesus didn't call us to create little clubs on corners and invite people to coffee on Sunday. He said, feed the hungry, deal with situations that keep people oppressed and who are captive, and fight for the health and well-being of your neighbor. If we're not doing that, we don't need to exist.
Madam President, just before your word of hope, I would share with you this, that yes, Venezuela is predominantly Catholic. And now would be a great time for Pope Leo to take his first international trip to Venezuela and demand the departure of American forces from the country of Venezuela.
He has to date been very critical of the United States leadership, and I've been very glad to hear that. And this is certainly a time for him to take a stand. And because there are so many people, particularly in the global South, who are Catholic, his words will carry a lot of weight.
If it were my dad, I can tell you this: he would go as Pope,
oh my gosh,
and he would not leave. He would stay there until America withdrew. If my dad were Pope, that's Jesse Jackson that I know. Madam President, a word of hope.
You know, the Poor People's Campaign Repairs of the Breach are planning a rally February 11th through the 14th, culminating in a gathering on February 14th. That was already in the works, as I understand it, but I'm sure that the shift will change. As we're coming out of this holiday season and we think about both the message of Hanukkah, where the hope for the miracle that was realized, that the candle, the oil did not run out in order to secure victory, the hope and peace that are such a part of so many religious traditions. I always turn to Isaiah 11, one of the major Advent texts that talks about what the Messiah will be like, but also what the society will be like. And I say it is a model for our movement globally as human beings, that we want to create an environment where people who are unlike one another understand that the goal is to build a country, to build a nation, to build a world where we can all live together in safety and in peace, and we will be free from fear and war, and we will all have enough. But we must act together in order to build that society. The prophets understood the world can be different because of this Messiah. And particularly if you're Christian, if you believe that, you're obliged and you're compelled, you're commanded to do that work so that we can build not just your neighborhood or your nation, but a world that reflects these values of love and respect for neighbor and respect and love for humanity. You have to be willing to put yourself on the line in order to defend and live out that faith. That's where I stand. And I know there are people who disagree with me on that. But as Martin Luther said, here I stand, I can do no other. So that's my word of hope. Let's make the world what we know it can be if we work together and disrupt this evil and this immoral action.
Amen. Amen. America is a country that was founded upon principles that include property rights.
Yeah.
If a man is born, a man or woman is born into this world of a different nationality, the rights that you have as a human being are the very soil that you stand on. No nation has the right to come and declare that which you were born into, your inheritance, the inheritance of your children, and declare that it belongs to them now.
Amen.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Our very special guest has been the president and general minister of the Disciples of Christ Church. Madam President, thank you for spending this day with us.
Always good to be here. Blessings for the week.
More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.